So today I want to talk to you about the most powerful archetype in Commander, and there's nothing else really I can say. Let's just do this. In Commander, we have a social contract, some rules outside the game that affect how we play the game, and one of those rules is you don't mess with people's lands. You know, it's very rare that you'll see somebody target an opponent's land. We have cards that can do this, cards that are readily available and played in a lot of decks, but we still don't do it. We have Beast Within's Generous Gifts, general removal spells that target permanents. They can target lands, but we don't do this, you know? Somebody's spent 5 turns getting to that one mountain that they need, so they finally colour fix they can cast a spell. You could stop that from happening and stop them from ever having a chance in the game, but we don't do it because it's a social contract and we like people to think they're going to win. So, the most powerful archetype, yeah, you've guessed it, it's landfall. It's just ridiculous. This has all come about because I was like looking at a lot of chatter online and people are talking a lot about how I guess it's ward is oppressive. Ward is like the key word at the moment, isn't it? Everyone's talking about it, you know, and how design and everything is like a enabler and a payoff on the same card these days and stuff like that. And it's like, for me, I don't see that so much as a problem. Yes, some of them can be oppressive and some of them can be strong, but there is ways around it and there's ways of interacting. But you can't interact with a land drop. Now, that to me is absurd and like it's just the most broken thing in EDH in itself. So let me explain it more. So let's take Tatiova Benthic Druid. Now, she is a 5-mana Simic commander that's a 3/3. Nothing crazy out of the ordinary at that point. She has landfall though. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and you draw a card. Yep. So when a land enters, you're getting that no matter what. And people can't counterspell a land. That's instant value. So they have to respond to your commander and the trigger on the commander. But by that point, the land's already entered. So you see how this can be a bit of a problem. Land enters, Tatiova triggers, they respond to the trigger, kill the Tatiova, the trigger resolves. You've still got your trigger. Imagine this scenario. You've got 5 lands in play, you pay Tatiova. You untap next turn, you draw Scapeshift. For those that don't know, Scapeshift is 2 green, sacrifice any number of lands, and then you can search the library for that many lands and put them into the battlefield. Notice this is lands, not basic lands. So say, for argument's sake, you've got 2 forests and an island and then 2 fetch lands. So we're going to crack our 2 fetch lands, we'll lose 2 life, and we're going to go fetch 2 more basic lands, get those onto the battlefield. Yep, you're then going to play your land drop per turn. So this is 3 Tatiova triggers at this point. You're gaining 3 life and drawing 3 cards. At this point, you can cast your Scapeshift for your 4 mana, 2 green. You sacrifice all your lands. So that's 6 lands you're now destroying. You're then going to go and get 6 more lands. That's 6 more lands onto the battlefield. That's 6 more life gained, 6 more card drawn, and nobody can do anything about it. It's just absolutely bonkers, and like you have priority as an opponent at very few opportunities. And for me, this is just absurd, absolutely absurd. And we live in a world where it's not okay to destroy people's lands. And I don't see that many Tatiova decks. I've played against 1 or 2 in my time, and one of them, oh my god, was oppressive. It was absolutely ridiculous. They were so far ahead before anybody on the table had even got to about 5 mana. It was just ridiculous. And it's like, I know there's a lot to be said about this social contract and stuff like that of not targeting lands, but then there was the other side of it of, oh, okay, well, arrange the power level of your deck beforehand. But even a basic Tatiova deck that's not running actual fetch land, that's running all tap fetches and things like that, it's still so goddamn strong. Because for every Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds, you're getting 2 landfall triggers. Yeah, and you can't respond to these things. And who is going to stifle an Evolving Wilds? So I've quickly just jumped onto Moxfield and thrown this together. Like, it's basically 15 ramp spells, including Scapeshift, and then 25 lands. Now, these are all, this is the bad fetch lands from Mirage. You know, we've got Blighted Woodlands, like just bad fetch lands, Broker's Hideout, Cabaret Courtyards, Evolving Wells, Fabled Passage, and then we've got the actual fetch lands in here. We've got the bad ones and the good ones. And then, yeah, so it's just, there's 25 lands that you can play that will double your landfall triggers. The 25 lands that will double the effect of your commander. And then obviously you've got your ramp spells, which are getting you extra mana, getting you ahead as well. And then this is not taking into account things like, in this deck, you're playing green. You're going to be running things like Azusa, the Illicent Dryad. You're going to be running things like, is it Burgeoning, and like all these other extra land drop spells. Yeah, what's the other commander which is the same as Tatiova, but she costs 6? The Giant Snake. Asai, something like that. Like another one that when a land enters, you're going to draw a card. Like there's so many ways of just playing lands that opponents can't react to. You can't interact with that land drop, and it's just so just crazy OP in my mind. And when you look on things like EDH Rec and you go, oh, the strongest commander or the most popular commander on the EDH top 200 decks is Edgar Markov. I'm sorry, but it's not. It's this little bloody merfolk druid. She's an absolute nightmare. And I mean, and it's not just her as well. There's Windgrace. There's all the Jund versions of Windgrace. And then there's a, what's the other one? I like the other Simic one is Asai. I'm going to have to find that name out. That's really bugging me. Right, here she is. Asai. Is he the tyrant of the Gaia Strait? Play an extra land. When the land ends the battlefield, you're going to draw a card. Like, so you're going to play your land per turn, you get a trigger. You're going to play your second land per turn, get a trigger. Like, they can only respond to the trigger. You've already got your landfall, you've already got the value. Just, and this is the thing as well, when you're playing things like Azusa, Dryad of the Elysian Grove, you know, you've got Zendikar in there. When you play a land, you're going to start getting stuff. Rampaging Balos. Like, you're already getting your value before your opponents can even respond. You're playing Lotus Cobra, you're generating mana. Llanowar Scouts to put extra lands into play. There is so much synergy within a landfall deck. It just puts it on another level. There's another spell I forgot to put in mind. Crop Rotation, 1 mana. Sacrifice a land, then go get yourself another land. Just another landfall trigger. It's just absolutely absurd. But yeah, it is just, yeah, the level of value you can get in a landfall deck is just, it's just bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. And we're spending so much time and energy talking about the latest commanders from, what is it? Cowboy hat theme, Outlaws of Thunder Junction, because there was 51 new legendaries, and it's just like, doesn't matter that there's 51 new legendaries. Look at landfall and how oppressive landfall is. Like, we should be playing more land destruction. Let's face it, we should. Okay. That's the big bold claim. Just play more land destruction. Yeah, let's everybody start running Armageddon. Now, that's not going to do well for most pods and most formats, local metas. But yeah, it will stop people playing landfall decks having such an egregious advantage, let's say, because of this social contract rule that we can't target their lands. And it's also something that you know that you can do in your deck. If you're playing a lot of green, maybe don't rely on so much on artifact ramp, but maybe rely more on land ramp, because it gives you an unfair advantage over another deck. It's something I've actually really noticed in my Grixis deck at the minute. I don't have green, so I can't land ramp at the same rate. I don't have white, so I can't do catch-up ramp. Like, I am relying on land drops and artifact ramp, yeah, which slows the deck down quite a lot. And when it's one of my lower powered decks, it can be quite frustrating when somebody brings a stronger deck to the table. But you just kind of have to brush that off that somebody wants to stomp. But anyway, like, I think the point is of all of this is that we shouldn't be worried about blowing up people's lands in certain situations. If somebody is playing a Tatiova or an Asai deck or any other type of Lord Windgrace deck and they are ramping it at a crazy level, is it Gitrog as well, the frog that brings things back from the graveyard all the time and stuff like that? Like, if somebody is at like 20 mana in the game, blow their lands up if you have the opportunity. Like, they have somehow got to 20 lands on the battlefield. They are doing something very, very bonkers, and yes, it's okay to stop them. So, yeah, I think I just want to put this message out there and just say, it's okay, people, to blow up lands in right circumstances. I mean, I had a game the other day where somebody, what's the mountain? The red mountain with hide away, so they can hide away a spell under it. So look at the top 5, hide away a spell. And they were gloating at the table that they had a way of removing one of my permanents, which was a threat to the board, which was going to help me win the game. And I had a beast within my hand. And I'm like, okay, they've got like 2 cards in hand. I'm like, is it because they're gloating so much because it's under there and it can't be interacted with? So I beast within their hideaway land. Like, it was a Chaos Warp that they were going to try and cast from it. And so, like, that saved me. It saved me the game. And obviously, it's one of those aspects of when don't gloat too much, because then you kind of give away. It's a bit of a tell, like just like in poker. But in that situation, like, the guy didn't feel too bad. He was like, yeah, you made the right play. Like, you destroyed the land that you needed to destroy to get rid of the removal spell that would have stopped you from winning. So yeah, it was all good. And I think that's what we need to do going forward as players and as a whole. Maybe not quite on the Armageddon level, but being able to interact, you know, just running a couple of lands that like you can tap to destroy an opponent's non-basic. You know, I'm not saying everybody start throwing in Blood Moons and this potential new spoiler that's come out from Modern Horizons 3, which turns everything to islands, but it's just, we as players need to understand that lands are permanents, and if we get so far crazy ahead and start to do silly things, people are going to want to stop us. And if they can't interact with your permanents because you give everything a hexproof or God knows what, like, we need to be okay with people touching our lands. Like, it's just the way Magic is going, and they've just reprinted a load of land destruction in Fallout. Like, I think WotC is low-key trying to say, like, if this happens again and they print more land destruction stuff, they're trying to say, this is okay. I mean, land destruction is in standard now for the first time in God knows how long. Like, they're trying to say to the player base, it's okay to mess with your opponent's lands to stop them from winning. Because, you know, if they get to 4 black mana and they cast a Shieldred, you just effed. Like, stop them getting to that 4 mana. Yeah, cards are so strong these days that you've got to stop people from casting them. And if you're not playing counter spells, then maybe stop them from getting to that mana advantage that gets them those cards too far, too quickly. Just my point of view. Controversial, I know. Sorry, guys. So just before we end, I've got another example of why this is so strong. And it was a friend of mine playing a mono black deck, and they played Cryptghast. They only had, like, I think it was like 3 or 4 swamps in play, and they play a Cryptghast. And it was just like, okay, it's about to double up their mana next turn. All right. One player removed it, goes to the graveyard, they reanimate it, get it back on the next turn. Their end step, I then destroy it again. I think this Cryptghast died about 3 times. The 3rd time, I think he brought it back out from the graveyard. It stuck to the battlefield. Nobody could deal with it. Doubled all his mana. He won the game. Like, yes, it was about 3-4 turns later that he won the game, but the Cryptghast enabled such a mana advantage that it enabled them to win the game. Now, this is not a landfall specific example, but it just goes to show how strong mana is. And when you can't interact with it, it just puts you on another tier of where I've got an advantage and you can't touch me. Yeah, which is what makes it so strong. So yeah, just food for thought, something for you guys to think about. I'm not saying go and stick Armageddon in every white deck and blow up all the lands all the time, but a strip mine here and there, you know, like a Beast Within or Generous Gift on a target land to stop somebody from gaining too much advantage, seems pretty reasonable to me. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all the support, the comments, the sharing, the subscribing. It's all great stuff. Please keep it up. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.